was Moses.
Right, Moses. That's correct.
You know, Abraham heard God's voice through angels, okay, when he told him about he's going to make a great nation, okay? But Moses actually saw the burning bush, which was supposed to be God, and Jesus, as the Son of God, okay, had contact with him, all right? But no, it's for us to take it on faith.
Well, faith. The problem is, as I'm sure you know, Mark, obviously the Bible has been written, rewritten through Greeks, Arabic, everything, and English language, the translation. Like, I'm sorry to say, I lost a little bit of faith, and I do believe someone's better than me and out there who made me. But just say Virgin Mary. I don't know if you saw the History Channel. I mean, I heard this all before History Channel the other night was talking about Virgin Mary in Arabic. It's not that she was a virgin and she had baby without having sex. She that's called as a translation and changed. She was just happened to be a virgin.
Well, that's
my take on it.
The questions that arise with the Virgin Mary is that different parts of Catholicism,
right?
Okay, the true Roman Catholic believes that Mary was a virgin and she was carrying God's child through the angel, and then Jesus was born. Okay, but in the Bible itself, in various parts of the New Testament, I believe, or maybe even toward the end of the Old Testament, they talk about Jesus' brothers and sisters. Now, that has to be clarified because in many cases, cousins were also called brothers.
Right. Exactly.
So are we talking about the cousins of Jesus, or are we talking about actual siblings? And then there's always the case of Joseph. Joseph's first wife died, okay? Joseph might have had children with her, so those are also considered brothers. Because in the Bible, when they talk about you lying with your brother's wife, let's say you pass away and your brother lies with your wife, they consider that adultery because they consider her a blood relative. Well, she's not a blood relative.
Right. Again, I believe it is all. I think translation just really got messed up, but it messes up the Catholic Church as far as what everyone believes in or thought they believed in. But the Catholic Church got a lot of real estate, a lot of money, and politicians. You can't. It's weird. I'm in a transitional stage of my life where I can't believe where I grew up in a Christian society. I don't believe it anymore.
Dan, let me put it to you this way. Pope Francis seems to be a very progressive pope.
Yes.
He is teaching things and saying things that for many old-time Catholics, I wouldn't say it's blasphemous, okay?
No,
but it's certainly a new way of looking things, that he says the church is looking too much into abortion and homosexuality when they should be thinking about the poor.
Right.
Okay? And that's a progressive way of thinking because, no offense to the Republicans out there, but when you talk about cutting food stamps and you cutting aid to veterans administrations and hospitals, okay, that's not taking care of the poor if you want the truth.
No, of course. I mean, gee, being all night, Mark, talking about so many important issues. I'm gonna try to divert this conversation.
Okay.
I met a guy last night, and I think I already told Felix. A military guy, a Marine. He was, I think, 29 years old. He told me some such horrible stories. What is going on over there and why everyone hates us. I mean, he told me he had to shoot children, women, men, but he said you had no choice. They're running around with the kids. They're running around with guns, shooting at him. So, gun control, but my point is this, is that this guy, we need to take care of our military. He came back, I just met him, just for the first time, and he was in tears. And now
Well,
they're
because-
shipping them off now to the Philippines to take care
Because
of
he
what
has-
happened, just that storm they just had.
Well, was he in tears because of things that he did, or?
Yeah, he couldn't handle it. He
Well-
couldn't handle what he did.
Well, you
And
see,
we
that's
gotta
the
take care
thing.
of the military.
When you're over there, you don't think of these things, or maybe you do. But when you come home and you realize what's happened,
Right.
you know, I will say, going back to Vietnam,
Right.
okay, many of the soldiers, you know, you try to be. I mean, it's a natural affinity between people and children, but a lot of the children, you know, had grenades in their hand. They come up to ask you for candy or food,
Right.
and they're holding a grenade.
Right. Exactly. That's what problem in America is. We don't understand how. This is how terrorism came apart. We don't understand them. So this guy was a young kid. I'm 40 years old. I still call this guy a kid. He was upset. I mean, he was definitely, you know, I hate to say it, drinking too much, but he let out a lot. I mean, he talked about 9/11 and things he couldn't talk about, and he was in tears about what happened. How Bin Laden wasn't really the guy behind it and everything else, but
Do you know if he was in therapy?
he should be. He should be in therapy. But
For
he
his
has-
own sake, he
look,
should be.
I heard some horrible stories from him. I mean, heartbreaking stories. He has a wife he hasn't seen in 14 months. And now he came to JFK, and now he's going out to the Philippines.
So he's
And
probably coming home when they.
He showed
they
me, and this is not hearsay. He showed me videos on his whatever iPhone, iPad, whatever, of his infantry. How it happened. His troops. He was running around. I saw videos shooting people. I'm like, Jesus. I couldn't believe
I don't
it.
know how. You know, I tell you, if that falls into the wrong hands, he could be facing
That's
a
what he
military
said he
court.
could've done. Well, that's why maybe I shouldn't be talking to you guys. But
Well, you're not giving any names out.
No,
you know,
no,
and-
No,
names,
but that's
but-
not the point. He shldn't even have that stuff on an
we
iPad
don't
or an
know who he is.
iPhone.
But
we
I
really
just- I
don't know
felt
who
that
he is.
I just felt his pain. My point of this conversation is that these military people need help when they come back.
Yeah,
They
but-
certainly do, and that's why I said if you read the current military budget, they may be cutting, you know, some tanks or jets, but a lot of the cut is going to veterans hospitals, veterans administration.
Right? They need when they come out, they need help. This guy clearly last night needed help. I mean, it was a young kid, I think he was 20, I don't know, 26 or 27 years old kid. I mean, he was definitely clearly disturbed.
That is definitely a case of PTSD.
Right, PA, right. he was upset. He told me he shot kids, women, guys. I said, how many? And I tried to pry to him, which I probably shouldn't have. I'm not a doctor. I said, how many people did you kill? He goes, I don't know.
And what is he, a Marine?
The Marine. He told me, he'll laugh maybe, hopefully. He said, you know, Army's nothing, Navy's nothing, Air Force is nothing. And when you're on the front row, then you're something. So he was on the front row, and he did a lot of damage. And he definitely, I can clearly see, I'm not a doctor again, but I felt so bad for him. He felt shooting kids. He felt freaking horrible. So what do you want me to do?
And he has to live with that for the rest of his life.
But the problem is, there's no. He's going to ship him off now to. He's just matter of fact, I just met him last night. He's shipping off to the Philippines for protection, I guess whatever.
Well, but you know what's going to happen, Dan? What's going to happen is he may start feeling a little better about himself, but years down the road, he's going to remember what happened. It's almost like the person who sexually molested, okay, as a young person, all right, and and I'm talking about a very young person, and they push it to the back of their brain, you know, they don't tell anybody, and then years later, all of a sudden, they realize that they were molested, okay, it just comes to them. At some point, he's going to remember what he did, and he's going to want answers, and he's going to have to get therapy. You know, it's just a shame that he can't get the therapy now while it's still fresh in his mind.
Right, I know. I was heartbroken. I even bought him dinner, but it was true what he said. I saw the videos. Obviously, he's not lying to me. I saw the videos of him being running around with the troops and the Marines shooting. And he said he told me that they're just, what are you going to do? Kids are running around with guns.
Yeah. Well, listen,
I had to shoot them.
Obviously nobody would be lying about something like that anyway. If this happens to you, you wouldn't be proud of it and say, "Hey, I shot," whatever. So, it's a very sad thing that you go through. And
also, Felix too. He did. I really don't want to badmouth Obama, but he said, "What the hell are we doing there?"
Well, he's trying to wind it down as quickly as he can. Okay, he does have to worry about the safety of the men and women that are still in Afghanistan. Okay, it's not just as I know that many people would say, well, let's just get them all on a transport and let's get them on a plane and ship them home. But these things have to be done. I understand about being gradual, but according to him, I think in 2014, isn't that 2014? When
you said Obama?
Yeah.
That the troops in Afghanistan would be gone.
Yeah, well.
Yeah,
I know. And Afghanistan is going to go back the way it was.
Oh, of course it will.
My heart just went out to him.
I certainly agree with you. My heart would go out to him, too.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the first thing I would say to him is he's got to get help. He's got to tell his commanding officer right now, before he goes to the Philippines, that he needs to talk to someone, that he needs therapy.
Right.
As Marines, they may have pressure not to say anything to anybody.
Well,
he told me things I won't even talk on the air. I mean, I couldn't believe some of the stories.
You hate to think that he's going into a depressed area right now in the Philippines where everything is bombed out and women and children and old men and people are in the streets. And if this guy loses it, now I'm sure he won't have a weapon. He doesn't need a weapon to distribute humanitarian aid. But if he does, and if he has a flashback, it's almost frightening to think what might happen.
Right.
Well, also maybe on the opposite side, maybe doing some good might make you feel better. Also,
carrying a gun? I don't think
he's
so.
Helping people. I'm talking
well,
about.
Well, no, yeah, the humanitarian part, yes,
might be good for him.
But then, like I said, he may be able to suppress this. Okay, but eventually, whether he's home with his wife or whether he's living alone, it's going to come back to him. I mean, I remember when they dedicated the Vietnam Wall, the memorial, back in the 80s. And Steve Mason, who passed away, he was a lieutenant and he was a poet, and he was in Vietnam. He was like the poet laureate of Vietnam, and he wrote a poem, and he talked about, he talked about Marines who came back from Vietnam who had flashbacks and dreams, and the guy thought he was pounding the pillow, but he was actually punching his wife in her sleep and in his sleep.
Oh, Jesus.
And then when they wake up, it's mind-boggling to them because they would never do anything like that, but that's how real it was.
Yeah, this young gentleman I met, again, I'm going to call him a kid. I couldn't even feel that pain. I mean, I couldn't even feel it. What he was talking about, couldn't even feel it. I don't know.
I understand.
I mean, there's more stories that I wouldn't even discuss on your radio show. Other stories.
And for every one of him, Dan, how many people are suppressing those stories and not even talking about it, but they happen to be in the middle of it?
Yeah, no, he was actually, a matter of fact, I was with my wife, with him, and he was pretty much put his head on my wife's shoulder, crying. So he pretty much cried. He was so upset. But basically that was it. And he went up to his room, and that was it.
Probably the alcohol loosened him up.
It did. Right. The alcohol loosened him up. Exactly right. And he just said, "I'll see you guys sometime in another life." That's what he said. Like he knows he's going to die soon or something. And I know I'm not going to see him again. These guys at JFK, they come in, they fly in, and military people, and they come and go. So I don't know. I'm sure I'm not going to see him again, but I hope he's okay.